Imagine standing on a riverbank and watching your mentor, the most powerful figure in your nation, get swept up into the sky by a whirlwind and a chariot of fire. No goodbyes, just a sudden, violent, glorious exit. That is the visual that anchors the beginning of Second Kings. It feels less like history and more like a cinematic climax, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's one of the most visually arresting moments in Scripture. We're looking at the transition from Elijah to Elisha in chapters 1 through 4. And honestly, the stakes couldn't be higher. You have a nation in spiritual crisis, kings who are constantly looking for answers in all the wrong places, and this massive question hanging in the air. Can the successor actually carry the weight of the master?
That's the key tension, right? Elisha asked for a double portion of Elijah's spirit. To a modern ear, that sounds a bit greedy, like, I want to be twice as powerful as you. Is that what he was actually asking for?
It sounds like an ego trip, but it's actually a legal term. In that culture, the firstborn son received a double portion of the inheritance compared to the other siblings. It signified that he was the new head of the family. Elisha wasn't asking to be a superhero. He was asking for the authority to continue the mission. He was accepting the burden of leadership, not just the perks of power.
And the text seems to go out of its way to prove he got it. I mean, immediately after Elijah leaves, Elisha is parting the Jordan River, healing water supplies, and, well, we have to talk about the bears.
Ah, the bears. Chapter 2. It's the story everyone stumbles over.
It's terrifying. Some youths mock him, calling him Baldy, and suddenly two bears maul 42 of them. It feels like such a sharp contrast to the healing miracles. Why is that even there?
It is jarring. But you have to look at the context of authority. These weren't necessarily little children. The Hebrew term can refer to young men, essentially a gang. By mocking him, they were rejecting the prophet's authority right at the start of his ministry. It establishes that while Elisha brings life, the office of the prophet is dangerous to mock. It's a reminder that this power isn't a parlor trick. It's the raw authority of God. If you play with fire, or in this case, ridicule the messenger, there are consequences.
Speaking of consequences, the narrative shifts gears into high-level geopolitics in chapter 3. You've got three kings, Israel, Judah, and Edom, marching into the desert to fight Moab. It sounds like a disaster waiting to happen. They run out of water.
It's a classic case of poor planning meeting divine intervention. The king of Israel blames God immediately, saying God brought them there to die. But Elisha steps in, only out of respect for the king of Judah, and fills the valley with water without rain. It's a surreal image, a desert valley suddenly glistening with water that looks like blood in the sunrise.
That visual deception actually causes the Moabites to attack, thinking the kings killed each other. But the ending of that battle is disturbing. The king of Moab, realizing he's losing, sacrifices his own oldest son on the city wall. The text says there was great wrath against Israel, and they left. What are we supposed to make of that?
It's one of the darkest moments. It shows the absolute desperation of paganism, a father burning his future to save his present. The wrath likely implies a deep, collective horror, or perhaps a spiritual heaviness that made the Israelites retreat. It stands in such stark contrast to what happens in chapter 4. Elisha moves from international warfare to domestic intimacy. He helps a widow who is drowning in debt.
I love that story. What do you have in the house? Nothing, except a pot of oil.
Exactly. The contrast is beautiful. Kings sacrifice their sons for power, but God multiplies a widow's oil to save her sons from slavery. It's a theology of empty vessels. Elisha tells her to borrow as many empty jars as possible. The oil only stops flowing when she runs out of empty containers. It suggests that God's provision is limited only by our capacity to receive it.
And that theme of life continues with the Shunammite woman. She builds Elisha a room, he prophesies she'll have a son, and then years later the boy dies. This feels like a direct parallel to Elijah, doesn't it?
It is. It mirrors Elijah raising the widow's son previously. But notice the persistence here. The woman refuses to leave Elisha. She says, "As the Lord lives, I will not leave you." She demands that the man of God, the representative of life, fix this. And he does. He literally lays himself over the boy, eye to eye, mouth to mouth. It's intimate, weird, and miraculous. The boy sneezes 7 times and wakes up.
It's fascinating how physical these miracles are. Flour in the poison stew to fix it. Feeding 100 men with 20 loaves, it's all very tangible.
That's the point. The God of Elijah isn't just a God of fire and whirlwinds in the sky. Through Elisha, we see God in the kitchen, in the jar of oil, in the soup pot, and in the sick room.
So if we step back, we see a transition from the fiery, lonely judgment of Elijah to the community-focused, life-giving ministry of Elisha.
Precisely. It challenges us to ask, where do we look for God? We often want the chariot of fire, the big show, but 2 Kings suggests that the double portion of the Spirit is most active in the daily desperation of widows, the hunger of students, and the grief of mothers.
That's a powerful place to land. It leaves us wondering, are we offering our empty vessels to be filled, or are we just waiting for a show in the sky?
That is the question. The power is real, but it usually shows up right where we run out of our own resources. If you have been blessed by this, please like, subscribe, and share this joy with others. God bless.